During a live fire training session, a group of SEAL recruits noticed a woman standing near the range, dressed only in plain fatigues without any insignia or markings of rank. One trainee, brimming with arrogance, smirked and called out, "Hey, what's your rank, ma'am?" The others chuckled, assuming she was just another observer with no importance. She met their stares without flinching and replied with one calm word, "Admiral." The laughter died instantly. Before diving in, don't forget to subscribe to Major Tom's Tales, so you never miss stories of real courage. Drop a comment letting us know where you're tuning in from. Moments later, the base intercom confirmed her identity, a decorated combat veteran with missions still buried under classification. The trainees' faces went pale as they realized who they had just mocked. From what city are you watching this story unfold? If you enjoy tales about unsung heroes who earn respect quietly, make sure to follow for more. Naval Special Warfare Training Facility, Port Ardent. The sun was climbing over the obstacle course as SEAL candidates pushed through their morning drill. A sharp October breeze carried a mix of sea salt and sweat through the air. Golden light stretched across the grounds, highlighting figures moving in practiced precision through one of the most demanding military programs on Earth. Clint Harlan led his squad through the final stretch of their sunrise run, maintaining a brutal pace that kept them ahead of the others. At 28, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone born into a military bloodline, third-generation sailor. His grandfather had served as an underwater demolition specialist during Vietnam. His father, a decorated SEAL, had fallen during a classified mission 15 years earlier. The Harlan name opened doors in the Navy, but it also came with expectations that Clint both embraced and struggled against. Running close behind him was Lena Ortiz, a former Olympic swimmer whose leap from the spotlight to military life had stunned everyone who knew her. At 26, she had traded medals and sponsorships for relentless training and silent service. Driven by motives she rarely voiced, her movements through drills carried the fluid grace of endless disciplined hours in the water. Noah Briggs followed in stride, his lean frame disguising impressive strength. At 24, the youngest of the team, the former chess prodigy treated every phase like a puzzle demanding precision and patience. While others relied on brute force, Noah relied on calculation and flawless execution. Holding the rear was Rhea Voss, a composed 27-year-old marksman with perfect posture, even at the tail of the pack. Her expression never changed whether she led or lagged, her focus unbroken by exhaustion or noise. The others knew little about her past, as she shared only what training required. "Harlan, you're drifting right again." Instructor Maddox barked from the finish line, his voice sharp and controlled. At 42, Maddox was the embodiment of a SEAL mentor, relentless, disciplined, and gifted at spotting what others missed. "Keep formation. This isn't a solo sprint." "Yes, instructor," Clint replied, correcting his line without losing pace. It was the same flaw Maddox had corrected before, his instinct to surge ahead alone. Leadership, as his father once taught, wasn't about being first across the line. It was about bringing the whole unit there together. They crossed the marker in sync, moving immediately into the next drill without celebration. No applause for speed, no break for finishing first. In SEAL training, reaching the standard only earned you the right to face the next challenge. 5-minute water break, then straight to the range. Instructor Maddox ordered, already turning his focus to the next squad moving in. "Voss, your weapon analysis is behind. Catch it up now." "Yes, instructor." Rhea responded with a brief nod, her face as unreadable as ever. The group moved toward the hydration point, conversation surfacing once Maddox was out of earshot. "Anyone else notice he's been twice as hard on us this week?" Noah asked, refilling his flask. "Dropout numbers are climbing faster than any class in the last 3 years. I checked the stats." "Probably because higher-ups are flying in for inspection," Lena said, taking a careful sip. "The whole base is wound tight. You know how everyone scrambles when a flag officer's coming." "Which one this time?" Clint asked. "Didn't Admiral Johnson come last quarter?" "Vice Admiral. Laura Quinn," Rhea answered calmly, surprising them all with her knowledge. "Deputy Commander of Naval Special Warfare. Word is she's implementing new evaluation standards across the elite units." Clint frowned. "Never heard of her." "That's exactly the point," Rhea replied, sealing her flask and walking off toward the range. The others exchanged glances. She rarely volunteered information, but when she did, it was never trivial. "How does she even find this stuff out?" Noah murmured. "She barely talks to anyone outside our unit." "She listens," Lena said dryly. "Unlike some people." Clint ignored the jab and checked his timer. "Break's almost over. Let's move." The range spread out before them, targets aligned at multiple distances across manicured dirt. For most recruits, the upcoming drill would take hours, but their team had already proven their precision. Today's session focused on advanced maneuvers, moving targets, shifting terrain, synchronized fire. About 40 minutes in, Clint noticed her. A woman standing at the edge of the range, half concealed behind a support pillar, wearing plain fatigues without insignia. Her short, silver hair was the only hint she might outrank the instructors. Her weathered face and steady posture spoke of hard years in the field. She held a simple notepad, occasionally jotting something as she studied their shots with unnerving focus. "We've got a spectator," Clint muttered between sets. The others followed his line of sight until they spotted her too. "Probably a government evaluator," Noah guessed. "Psych review, maybe?" "Wouldn't be dressed like that," Lena countered. "And civilian assessors wear IDs." "She's fixated on Voss," Clint observed quietly. "Hasn't taken her eyes off her." Rhea, still in the middle of a precision drill, didn't seem to notice, though Clint doubted she missed much. When Maddox finally called for a short rest, the woman didn't move, still scribbling notes as if studying a puzzle only she understood. Something about her stance bothered him. The weight on her right leg, the subtle readiness in her eyes. This wasn't some desk officer. This was someone who knew the job. "I'm going to talk to her," Clint decided, clearing his rifle and setting it aside. "Don't," Lena warned. "Remember what happened when you challenged that guest master chief?" "Just being courteous," Clint replied, a grin creeping across his face. "Restricted area. She shouldn't be here without clearance." Confidence overriding caution, he walked toward the woman, his teammates following at a distance. Up close, he noticed the faint scar along her jaw, knuckles rough from old fractures, and calloused hands marked by years of handling gear. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said, voice respectful but edged with ownership of the range. "This area is restricted to active trainees." She looked up briefly from her notes, her tone calm and measured. "I'm aware," she replied, then simply returned to writing. The effortless dismissal threw Clint off balance for a moment, leaving him standing there unsure who, exactly, he was talking to. Clint glanced at she, Noah, who stepped forward politely. "Ma'am, may I ask who authorized your presence here?" he said in a calm, respectful tone. "I did," the woman replied without hesitation, eyes still on her notepad. "Carry on." The brief, dismissive response made the team exchange uneasy glances. irritation flickering beneath the surface. Clint, already bothered by her silent authority and now pushed by her indifference, decided to press the issue. "Just so we're clear," he said with a half-smile, "what's your rank exactly, ma'am?" The others chuckled under their breath, the implication clear. They figured she was a civilian consultant overstepping boundaries, or maybe a low-ranking officer with too much curiosity. Either way, she didn't belong in their space, and Clint wanted that understood. Slowly, the woman lifted her head. Her steely gray eyes locked onto Clint's with a sharpness that made him instantly regret the question. She studied him for a long moment, then replied with one word: "Admiral." The air seemed to stop. Before anyone could react, Instructor Mattis Gessis appeared beside them, snapping to attention with a salute that radiated genuine respect, not routine formality. "Admiral Quinn, ma'am," he said crisply. "We weren't expecting your inspection until tomorrow." As if on cue, the base intercom blared to life. "Attention all personnel, Vice Admiral. Laura Quinn, Deputy Commander of Naval Special Warfare Command, is conducting an unscheduled evaluation. All department leads report to briefing at 0900. The color drained from the trainees' faces as realization hit. This wasn't just any officer. She was the second highest authority in the entire command, a legend in the shadows of special operations. And Clint had just questioned her like she was a random passerby. He started to stammer an apology, but Admiral Quinn raised a hand, stopping him cold. "At ease, Candidate Harlan," she said evenly. Her tone wasn't angry or forgiving, just matter of fact. "Your performance says enough, both the good and the bad." The fact she already knew his name sent another jolt through him. She hadn't stumbled into their exercise. She'd come specifically to watch them. Without further reprimand, Quinn nodded toward Maddox. "Continue the exercise, instructor. I'll observe quietly." Then to the stunned trainees, "Carry on, that's an order." As she walked away, Clint noticed something subtle that the others didn't, the faint limp in her stride, favoring her right leg. Beneath her uniform, a slight contour revealed what looked like a prosthetic limb. When she reached the edge of the range, her sleeve slipped just enough to expose a pale scar across her wrist, the kind he'd seen before in hand-to-hand defense injuries. "Back to formation," Maddox snapped, his tone sharp enough to slice steel. The promise in his voice was clear. There'd be a long talk later. "And Harlan, once this exercise wraps up, you and I are going to have a word about how to address senior officers." "Yes, sir," Clint replied automatically, his mind still spinning from what had just happened. As they returned to their stations, Lena hissed, "An admiral? You mouthed off to a vice admiral?" "How was I supposed to know?" Clint whispered back defensively. "By not assuming," Riade said quietly as she adjusted her rifle sight. "Assumptions are the first step toward failure." Over the following week, Admiral Quinn became a near-daily presence at their drills. Unlike most visiting brass who arrived with entourages and left after brief formalities, she observed everything personally. Always alone, always with that same simple notepad, recording observations with focused precision. The candidates gradually adapted to her unrelenting scrutiny, though her intent remained a mystery. Some instructors grew even stricter under her gaze, while others seemed visibly uneasy. The intensity of training escalated. Each day pushed the recruits closer to their limits. Rumors began circulating that Quinn was behind a new elimination policy designed to cut weak candidates faster. The class numbers dropped steadily, strong performers failing unexpectedly, others quitting without warning. The tension across Port Ardent's facility was palpable. During a brutal night navigation exercise 5 days after Quinn's arrival, Lena made a disturbing discovery. Several of their directional markers had been tampered with. The adjustments were subtle enough to mislead teams into unsafe territory beyond the designated boundaries. These weren't random errors, she told the group after recalibrating their gear. Someone deliberately changed them. "You sure?" Noah asked, double-checking the instruments. "That's a serious accusation. I've been competing in endurance courses since I was 12, Lena said firmly. These were altered by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. When she reported it to instructor Maddox, the next morning, he dismissed her concern with weary authority. "Candidate Ortiz," he said flatly, "you've been running on less than 4 hours of sleep all week. Equipment glitches happen. Adjust and move on." That night, while returning from an approved call with his mother, Clint passed an open office and caught voices inside. Admiral Quinn's, steady tone, but laced with anger this time. "The safety protocols are compromised, instructor," she was saying. "That makes 3 incidents this month across 2 installations." Maddox's voice responded, calm but defensive. "With respect, Admiral, these are controlled stress tests. Unexpected variables are part of the curriculum." "No, Marcus," Quinn countered, using his first name in a way that hinted at a long history. "This isn't training oversight. Someone is deliberately testing response patterns. I've seen this before. These recruits aren't ready for what's being simulated. If there's a breach," Maddox argued, "it needs to go through official channels. Those channels," she said pointedly, "are exactly what concern me." Her voice dropped to a measured intensity. "Be vigilant, track patterns, trust no one you haven't vetted yourself." Clint slipped away before they noticed him, his pulse hammering. Whatever this was, it wasn't a routine inspection. It was something deeper, something big enough to bring an admiral into the field herself. The next morning, he found her alone in the strategy room studying records. Standing at attention, he spoke carefully. "Admiral Quinn, with your permission, I'd like to apologize for my conduct during our first meeting. It was unprofessional." She looked up, expression unreadable. "Pride is a luxury of those who haven't seen real combat, Harlan," she said finally. "Your father understood that. Daniel never judged rank by the stripes." The words hit him like a jolt. "You knew my father?" "I did," she replied, closing the folder she'd been reviewing. "Captain Daniel Harlan, exceptional operator, better man. Official reports say he rescued 7 during Operation Eagle. The truth is 11. Remember the difference." Before he could ask more, she gave a single nod toward the door. "Your team's waiting at the demolitions range. Don't keep them." "Your unit's at the demolitions range, candidate. Don't keep them waiting." Still stunned, Clint saluted and left, his mind spinning. His father had died when he was 13. The official report called it a training accident, a story his mother had never believed. Now, an admiral had casually mentioned an operation that didn't exist in public records, with details that didn't match anything he'd ever been told. That night, Clint searched for Operation Eagle and found almost nothing. An obscure classified rescue mission 15 years ago, involving civilians extracted from enemy territory. One faded photo showed masked faces for security, but in the background was a female officer with commander insignia, the same time frame as his father's death. The following day brought new alarm. During a simulated hostage rescue, an instructor discovered live rounds mixed into the training ammo. The exercise was halted immediately. Investigations launched. That night, unable to sleep, Clint went for a perimeter run. Near the admin lot, he spotted Admiral Quinn arguing heatedly with a man in a government sedan. Their gestures were sharp, Quinn shaking her head repeatedly at whatever he was saying. When she noticed Clint nearby, she cut the conversation short. The man sped off abruptly, leaving her standing alone under the dim lot lights. Instead of reprimanding him for being out of bounds, Quinn simply nodded before walking off toward temporary housing. The next morning, Noah approached Clint with grim news. Using his analytical skill, he had charted patterns in recent accidents and equipment failures. "It's not random," he said in a low voice while they geared up. "It's targeting certain trainees, ones with specific strengths. We're still here because we cover each other." "You're saying someone's deliberately eliminating candidates?" Clint asked quietly. "Not eliminating," Noah corrected. "Testing them. It's like a hidden layer of evaluation, stress and sabotage as another filter." "Or something worse," Clint muttered, recalling Quinn's warnings about breaches. Later that day, Lena came forward with her own discovery. Bending some of the training rules, she'd observed Instructor Maddox receiving encrypted messages on a non-military device. That night, the four met secretly in a supply shed, sharing what each had learned. "This goes way beyond regular drills," Clint concluded. "Quinn's not here for an inspection." "We should report this," Noah said. "Send it up the chain." "To who?" Lena countered. "If Maddox is involved, who do we trust?" "Maddox isn't your enemy," came a voice from the doorway. They turned to find Instructor Maddox Wees himself standing there, expression grim. Instead of reprimanding them, he shut the door and lowered his voice. "You're right, this isn't standard training anymore. And Admiral Quinn isn't here to grade you. She's here to expose a leak inside our program. Someone's been grooming candidates as long-term infiltrators." The revelation froze the room. "Over the past year, multiple SEAL teams overseas have had missions collapse," Maddox continued. "Intel points to recruits compromised during training cycles, like this one. Someone is feeding data to outside actors." "Why tell us?" Rhea asked. Her normally calm demeanor sharpened. "Because you four notice what others miss," Maddox said. "And after tomorrow's exercise, you'll each be assigned to separate evaluation teams. Be aware, this is dangerous ground." His warning proved prophetic. The next morning, Rhea's Q bunk was empty, her gear gone. The official note read, "Voluntary withdrawal," common enough in SEAL selection to avoid suspicion. But when Clint returned to quarters after drills, he found Rhea's combat knife and a coded transmitter hidden under his mattress, along with encrypted files framing him as the mole. Before he could react, security forces burst in. "Candidate Harlan, you're coming with us," one said curtly. As they escorted him across the base, Clint glimpsed other squads being detained, their rooms turned inside out. The world around him tilted from discipline to chaos. Instead of being taken to a disciplinary office, Clint was led to a secured meeting room, where Admiral Quinn sat alone. Dismissing the guards, she gestured to the chair opposite. "Sit, Harlan." Her demeanor had changed completely. No longer the quiet observer, but a combat commander radiating control. "I didn't plant those messages," Clint said immediately, his voice tight. "And I have no idea where Rhea is." "Clint," Hanny said, tension sharp in his voice. "I know," Admiral Quinn Chadwood replied quietly. She set a small weathered coin on the table, its surface dull from years of handling. Clint froze. It was identical to the one his father had given him before his death. A secret memento few outside special operations even knew existed. "Your father carried this during Operation Eagle," she said. He gave one to every member of the team. Clint stared at it, his mind racing. You weren't just his commanding officer, he realized aloud. I commanded because I fought beside him, Quinn confirmed. We were on the ground together. The mission went sideways, compromised from within, much like what's happening now. Then she rolled up her pant leg, revealing what Clint had only suspected earlier, a sleek prosthetic replacing her lower left leg. Sniper, Eagle Team, she added plainly. Same day your father didn't make it out. The revelation hit like a body blow. Clint had spent years piecing together fragments of truth, classified files, vague condolence letters, official lies. Now, the Admiral herself had confirmed what his mother always believed. Captain Daniel Harlan hadn't died in training. He'd been killed in action during a black op buried deep within government files. I've been running a shadow investigation ever since, Quinn continued, her voice low. Part of it carrying the weight of command, part the burden of isolation. The infiltration pattern stretches across all branches, our top-tier programs being quietly seeded with long-term plans. You think Rihanna's involved? Clint asked, almost hoping she'd deny it. I don't think, Quinn replied grimly. I know, just like your father's team 15 years ago. Before he could ask more, the lights went out. The building plunged into darkness as red emergency beacons flickered to life and alarms echoed across the base. They're moving, Quinn said calmly, drawing her sidearm from beneath the table. Crises reveal character. Your father made his choice 15 years ago. Now it's your turn. Through the window, Clint saw armed security teams mobilizing, but their formations were wrong. Too controlled, too coordinated for a normal response. They're blocking us in, he said, watching patterns unfold. Exactly, Quinn replied, checking her weapon with practiced precision. This isn't for you, Harlan. It's for me. The only question is, who do you trust when everything turns? The deep whine of approaching rotor blades grew louder. Fast movers inbound, she muttered. Halos unmarked. We've got minutes. She tossed him an access card. Vind, Ortiz, Ahosh, and Thassin. Briggs. Use the East Service Tunnel. Get to the comms hub. If I'm not there, contact Harbor Office frequency 739er-0. Code word, Kingfisher. That's your lifeline. Clint hesitated. Ma'am, what about the drill? Her expression hardened into something close to pride. That's the thing, Harlan. This was never a drill. For the first time since they met, she allowed the faintest trace of a smile, grim, resolute. Let's see if the son of Daniel Harlan can finish what his father started. Then came the blasts. Controlled detonations rattled the perimeter, creating chaos while unmarked helicopters appeared over the compound. Sirens wailed, lights failed, and in that chaos Clint understood the truth. It wasn't an outside breach. It was an inside coup, orchestrated by people who knew every inch of the base. They say the quietest person in a room often holds the most power. Admiral Lara Quinn. Didn't shout, didn't demand. She led with calm precision, and that was enough to turn chaos into command. Hidden strength, unexpected leadership. 3 days after the blackout. Port Ardent was under armed lockdown. Patrols roamed areas once limited to instructors. Training resumed under heavy watch, the air thick with unspoken suspicion. Clint Harlan was back in rotation, but without Rhea. No one explained the blackout, dismissing it as a systems test. Quinn remained on site, observing every session, her notes thicker than ever. Utility tunnel, precise layout, she said one morning as Clint passed her, voice just low enough to carry meaning. But when he reached the comms hub that night, Quinn was gone. So were her field team traces. The next morning, the official line was clear. Planned security exercise, minimal notice. Lies, Lena whispered during a water break. I counted 3 unmarked helos last night. That wasn't training. Keep it down, Clint warned softly. Security's watching. The story holds until someone cracks it. And Rhea? Noah asked under his breath. Nothing. Records say voluntary withdrawal, but her gear's still locked up, Clint answered. Since the incident, Instructor Mattis had changed subtly. Colder, more restrained, though still commanding excellence. The calm felt forced. One afternoon, he delivered new orders. Admiral Quinn wants your team for a special tactical evaluation, he said. Report to Facility C at 1400. Full combat loadout. Yes, Instructor, they replied in unison. After he left, the 3 exchanged wary looks. Why us? Noah asked. Maybe because we've seen too much, Lena murmured. Could be a test, or a setup. Clint didn't answer. Quinn's warning echoed in his mind. Trust no one whose rank was never earned. Clint's father had always said that real authority wasn't about rank. It was about how you acted and decided under pressure. Now, inside Facility C-Ho, a smaller, sealed combat training room, Clint saw what that meant. The space was empty except for Admiral Quinn, standing at a tactical table surrounded by digital schematics. As soon as the 3 entered, she locked the door and activated a signal jammer from her pocket, cutting every electronic feed in the room. We have limited time, she said, spreading out a set of photographs. The images showed Rhea meeting with unidentified figures at off-limits areas around the base. Thompson isn't just a trainee, Quinn said flatly. She's an implanted recruit. External agency, deep cover operative. Noah frowned. You're saying she's an enemy asset? Not just possible, Quinn answered. Probable. Signed into our pipeline years ago with a fabricated background, everything tailored for elite placement. Exceptional marksmanship, spotless record, controlled temperament, classic sleeper profile. Lena leaned in. Foreign intelligence? Quinn nodded. They've been trying to infiltrate our top training programs for decades, but now the methods have evolved. They build them young, feed them credentials, and wait. These aren't quick spies. They're decade-long investments. Why us? Clint asked, echoing Rhea's question from before. Because you've already seen too much, Quinn replied. And because you're sharp enough to notice patterns most don't. That makes you either an asset or a threat. She pulled another photo forward. It showed a dead instructor, one of the logistics officers from another base. 3 nights ago, she said. Compromised, removed quietly. Pattern matches what's happening here. Tampered equipment, swapped ammunition, falsified results. Noah whispered, testing reactions under stress, like we're lab rats. Exactly, Quinn said. They're pushing candidates to see who adapts and who questions orders. That's how they recruit. They don't just need soldiers. They need the ones willing to bend ethics for efficiency. Clint stared at her. What do you need from us? Simple, Quinn replied. Officially, you continue training. Unofficially, you help me identify the embedded network inside this facility. We can't go through Intel or NCIS. Too compromised. Lena hesitated. That's highly irregular, Admiral, potentially illegal. Quinn met her gaze. So is the infiltration of our entire command. I'm not ordering you, I'm asking for volunteers. You can step out right now and pretend none of this happened. None of them moved. Their silence said enough. "Good," Quinn said. "Then we do this quietly. Watch your instructors, your routines, your messages. Look for patterns that break normalcy. Every communication, every supply chain, every sudden reassignment." Over the next few days, Quinn kept her cover as a detached observer, while Clint's team carried out covert surveillance under the guise of training. They monitored drill schedules, personnel shifts, and communications between senior officers. NOAA intercepted coded transmissions embedded in mundane training updates. Lena tracked irregular delivery manifests. Clint pieced together operational data using the Admiral's decryption token. The deeper they dug, the more disturbing the pattern became. 5 other classes had received encrypted messages disguised as letters from family or innocuous digital packages. When Clint discreetly confronted an instructor he trusted, the man's reaction was chilling. He warned him off, muttering that Admiral Quinn's private investigation was already on thin ice with the higher command. Later, Clint overheard a conversation in the comms center. Senior intelligence officers accusing Quinn of overstepping authority and tampering with classified programs. The name they used for her target was Project Blackfish. Clint reported back to Quinn. "They're saying you've gone rogue, that your probe's unauthorized." "Good," she replied with a dry smile. "That means I'm close." "So, this is real?" Lena asked. Not foreign intel, but something internal?" "Correct," Quinn said. "Not sanctioned by naval intel. A compartmentalized structure running parallel to official command. Recruiting under false pretenses. No oversight, no record. We're dealing with a domestic shadow network." She pulled up the base schematic. "We need access to the secure comms facility at the docks. It's off limits, guarded 24/7. "Noah, your bioclearance can open the secondary route. I'll rotate the guards using my codes. We'll go during the maintenance window tonight." "Ma'am, this sounds like a trap," Clint warned. "It is," Quinn said. "But one will set before they do." That night, using her clearance, they infiltrated the secure communications wing. Inside, Quinn bypassed encrypted locks with administrative overrides reserved for flag officers. On her terminal, they uncovered multiple classified databases, not just for SEALs, but for the Army, Marines, and Air Force. Each listed pre-programmed recruits flagged years before enlistment. The files referenced Blackfish Protocol, a covert monitoring initiative spanning decades. "Look at this," Noah murmured. "These people were scouted since high school." Lena scrolled further and froze. Her own name was in the database. "What the hell?" she whispered. "Olympic file connections, university sponsors. It's all here." Before they could dig deeper, the door hissed open. Ria Hui stood there, armed, wearing combat gear instead of her training uniform. Her eyes were cold, detached. Behind her, Instructor Maddox and a pair of armed security officers entered, but their weapons weren't raised. "Admiral Quinn," Maddox said stiffly, "by order of Naval Intelligence Division, you're relieved of command pending charges of espionage and protocol violation." Quinn didn't flinch. She simply powered down the terminal, straightened, and said, "Of course I am." Naval Intelligence Division stormed in with orders of detention, charges of espionage and treason. Admiral Quinn stayed unnervingly calm. "Interesting accusations," she said quietly, almost like someone's rushing to bury something. The lead agent cited clearance codes and invoked Joint Chiefs authority under Code Tango 7 Alpha. Within 12 hours, Quinn was to be transferred to Washington for questioning. When she glanced at Clint, He gave a subtle shake of his head. Don't resist. Predictably, she didn't. Rhea, however, stepped forward, her expression unreadable, and cuffed the Admiral herself. For a moment, emotion flickered across Quinn's face. Recognition, not surprise. The connection between the two women was suddenly undeniable. The next 24 hours descended into confusion. Clint, Noah, and Lena were separated, each held in protective isolation, while intelligence officers launched what they called a containment review. The official message cited rogue access beyond clearance. Unofficially, they were being interrogated for potential collaboration. At Haven Rock Base, Director Hale Wexler of Naval Intel Special Operations personally led the inquiry. He presented the evidence in a clinical tone. Encrypted transmissions, foreign bank codes, falsified signatures, all traced back to Admiral Quinn. She's been running a personal op for years, Wexler claimed, projecting files onto a tablet, fabricated missions, manipulated data, even falsified Operation Eagle. Her interference caused a breach that got your father killed, Harlan. Clint felt something in him snap. The claim didn't fit. The timeline was too neat, the evidence too perfect. You're lying, he said, voice tight. Wexler leaned forward, pitying. Your loyalty's admirable, son, but misdirected. She fed you what you wanted to hear, same as she did to your father. Back in containment, Noah Ashnot whispered through a vent during guard rotations. The data's fake, he said. The digital signatures predate Carter's access by years. It's a frame job. They planned this. Clint stayed silent, realizing the files had been planted long before. The package was too smooth, too convenient. A preemptive takedown, meant to crush Quinn's investigation before it exposed the real infiltrators. Lena managed to pass word later through a coded note slipped in meal rations. Quinn's project, Kingfisher, is still active. She left a fallback. At Oro 200, during security rotation, Clint exploited a maintenance blind spot that Sane Noah had found. They regrouped briefly in a service corridor. She expected this, Lena said. We need to reach the comm hub. Her contingency's there. Their escape triggered alarms. Lights flashed, sirens howled. Code Phantom. The base locked down. Unmarked helicopters arrived on the main pad, their rotors shredding the silence. Over the intercom, security announced a civilian distress extraction, but Clint knew better. This wasn't a rescue, it was a purge. Following Quinn's earlier instructions, they slipped through an access tunnel toward the old admin wing. At the top level, they found her quarters abandoned. No signs of struggle, just a single item on the bunk, the same coin she had once shown Clint. Under its micro-etched surface, Noah found a data filament, coordinates at the phrase Level B2 Command Relay. Navigating sub-level maintenance corridors, they reached the checkpoint. 2 sentries challenged them, but Lena's forged credentials got them through. Inside, screens displayed live surveillance feeds from across the base, except several were frozen, looping identical frames. Someone had overridden command systems. Then Admiral Quinn's voice crackled through the intercom, steady, clear. If you're hearing this, the contingency has begun. Blackfish is compromised across multiple commands. Extract confirmation reports indicate infiltration in 17 cycles, 4 branches. Initiate counter-screening under Kingfisher protocol. Moments later, an emergency transmission appeared on the primary monitor. Joint Chiefs confirmation. Kingfisher contingency authorized. A quiet escalation order followed. Freeze all recent graduates. Suspend deployments. Begin cross-branch audits. The operation was real. The implications stunned them. Lara Quinn hadn't been a rogue admiral at all. She'd been operating under a hidden directive, sanctioned beyond public record. She wasn't just second in command of Naval Special Warfare. She was the covert director of Naval Intelligence Division, Blackfish Oversight. Outside, the chaos died down. The extraction team was gone, and Quinn's enemies, those who'd orchestrated the infiltration, were suddenly invisible. Weeks later, rumors spread that the Admiral's helicopter had gone down off the coast, though no wreckage was ever recovered. Clint Harlan and his surviving teammates were quietly reinstated under sealed orders. The official story labeled them observers in a classified containment exercise. Privately, they were debriefed by internal counterintelligence. The conclusion: Admiral Lara Quinn had uncovered a 20-year infiltration ring embedded deep within elite military pipelines. Her mission, Kingfisher, remained ongoing, active in silence, and though her name was erased from formal record, her legacy endured among those who understood what real authority looked like. Earned in the dark, carried without recognition. The glances between them said everything words couldn't. They now understood their role was larger than service. It was defense, protection, continuation of a mission that hadn't ended with Admiral Quinn. Clint, Noah, and Lena were reactivated under classified parameters. The operation, now labeled Kingfisher Fuller, moved fast, with expanded resources and silent backing from the highest levels. Within hours, they were outfitted with advanced tactical comms and untraceable weapons, transported aboard an unmarked high-speed craft bound for open waters. Their target, a covert maritime extraction. The ship, a disguised commercial trawler retrofitted for smuggling, was carrying a network handler linked to the infiltration ring. No radar signatures, no transponders, no allies. The team was on their own. Overhead, Quinn monitored from a distant command relay, her transmission coded through triple encryption. Her tone was calm but urgent. Remember, this isn't ideology, it's containment. The enemy isn't taking sides, they're taking leverage. Through optical drones, Clint saw Ryashin alive, on board the vessel. She was coordinating data transfers, her movements precise, her demeanor detached. "She's not coerced," Noah said, scanning the feed. "She believes in what she's doing." Quinn's reply was steady. "Conviction makes the perfect operative. Your father learned that the hard way." The realization hit like shrapnel. For decades, his family had been woven into the same covert web. Captain Daniel Harlan's. Missions, Admiral Quinn's. Oversight, and now Clint's own operation. All threads of a long, hidden war. The files Quinn had uncovered made it clear. His father hadn't been betrayed by outsiders. He'd been betrayed from within. When the assault began, it was swift and silent. They intercepted the trawler under low visibility, breaching from both sides. Gunfire erupted only once before Clint cornered Rhea Cook in the comm center. Through the cracked glow of monitors, truth confronted him in flesh. "Your father was no hero," she said evenly. "He chose allegiance over truth. Operation Eagle wasn't sabotage. It was exposure. He covered for a compromised command. He died protecting corruption." Clint's rifle wavered. "You're lying." "Am I?" she replied, voice calm, almost pitying. He knew he was part of it. Every empire needs its shadows. Behind them, Admiral Quinn's voice broke through the earpiece. "She's manipulating you, Harlan. She was the one who compromised Eagle. She killed your father's team." Rhea raised her weapon. Too late. Quinn's round hit her shoulder cleanly through a window breach. Rhea fell, disarmed but alive. Quinn stepped in, lowering her weapon. She's worth more alive. She's not a fanatic. She's a product. The report later described 20 operatives captured, 8 dead, multiple wounded. Data recovered from the trawler exposed decades of infiltration, an organized system planting operatives within every elite U.S. unit. The Blackfish network had survived since the Cold War, shifting allegiances as nations changed, its only loyalty to control itself. In debriefing, Admiral Quinn clarified everything. Rios wasn't driven by greed or politics, but by belief in stability through manipulation, a philosophy born from the same clandestine program that had once recruited Captain Harlan. He'd discovered it, tried to shut it down, and died for it. Clint submitted his after-action report with a single note: secured, minimal collateral. Admiral Quinn's assessment verified. Weeks later, Haven Rock Base was locked down under the pretext of infrastructure security testing. The true reason: interrogation of compromised personnel across multiple elite branches. NOAA compiled digital patterns connecting every sabotage attempt, proving the network's influence over strategic decisions worldwide. During a final classified ceremony, Clint's mother, She, was quietly invited to receive his father's posthumous commendation. She was told little, only that Daniel Harlan's actions had preserved not just lives, but the integrity of the nation's defense. The official citation said training mishap, but the sealed file read counter-infiltration success, Marshfield Protocol. After the ceremony, she told her son, "Your father always said authority isn't granted by stripes. It's proven by what you protect when no one's watching." Her composure carried the same strength that had once defined him. Months later, Clint Harlan stood at the new memorial wall at Haven Rock, his reflection glimmering beside engraved names: Daniel Harlan, Lara Quinn, Rhea Voss, each bound by choices made in silence. The brass inscription below read, "Courage unseen still guards the world." He exhaled slowly, remembering his mother's words. Authority wasn't about command. It was about integrity under fire. And sometimes the quietest leader in the room held the greatest power. Months after Voss, Haven Rock, the surviving members of Operation Kingfisher were reassigned under a new initiative, Project Zaria, a joint reform effort designed to rebuild elite operations from within. The program merged public oversight with classified intelligence, establishing stricter accountability, performance metrics, and integrity standards for all future candidates. Quietly, it became one of the most valuable structural reforms since the early post-Coronado years. Clint Harlan was stationed at a newly founded installation, serving as an intelligence liaison tasked with identifying potential vulnerabilities in training systems. The site, Edgefield, appeared ordinary. Plain buildings, no signs, nothing to hint at its purpose. There, he spent months observing the next generation of candidates, searching for traits of subtle imbalance, the same asymmetry of strength and restraint that Admiral Quinn had once embodied. Every morning, he carried an unmarked field notebook, jotting quiet observations: who noticed others, who listened before speaking, who showed calm under pressure. Through this silent assessment, he began to understand what true leadership meant. It wasn't loud or self-promoting. It was precise, grounded, and humble. Authority, he realized, wasn't given by insignia. It emanated through consistent competence and unwavering character. The lessons from Marshfield and Haven Rock had shaped him. He no longer sought recognition, only efficiency and purpose. Like his father, he had learned that real command existed beyond institutions, within the actions that protected people who would never know your name. On his final day at Edgefield, he visited the memorial courtyard, a quiet stone wall engraved with those who had served unseen. Among the names, Daniel Harlan, Victor Frost, Laura Quinn. Beneath them, the words read, "Adversaries united in service. Loyalty transcends allegiance." Standing there, Clint reflected on how truth and deception had intertwined through generations of soldiers. The world was rarely clear, but courage, he thought, was not about certainty. It was about integrity in the face of doubt. His father's sacrifice had proven that, and Admiral Quinn's life had redefined it. As he left the base, the sun caught the metal of Quinn's old prosthetic leg displayed behind glass, a tribute, unmarked but understood by those who'd known her. Clint paused, remembering her final words. "Quiet competence speaks louder than authority." He smiled faintly, stepping through the gate, the breeze catching the pages of his notebook. Some lessons, he thought, didn't end with war. They lived on in silence, passed from mentor to student, from one unseen guardian to the next. If you found meaning in this story, subscribe to Major Tom's Tales, where the courage of those who serve in silence continues to live for generations to come.